Alright guys, welcome to a brand new extra video. This is going to be an extra for Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. This will show all the powers that Kirby has at his disposal. There's 35 in all, so let's get started. Cutter slash Boomerang, only one of these. Pretty useful, pretty good for long distance, gets 3 out of 5 stars in usefulness. Double Cutter and Boomerang. Basically makes it a larger range. Still pretty useful, but not much better. 4 out of 5 stars in usefulness. Cutter and Needle makes a giant trap. However, it's really only useful sideways and upwards. Gets a 3 out of 5 stars. Cutter and Bomb throws a shuriken at enemies, and it's probably my personal favorite item, and I know for a fact it's my personal favorite long distance item. Very, very useful, even if you don't directly hit an enemy. I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. Cutter and Ice, a very fun power. You ice skate. Not that useful. It doesn't increase your speed in any way, shape, or form that I know of. In funness, it gets a 4 out of 5. In usefulness for fighting, it gets a 4 out of 5. Cutter and Rock. Basically, it makes a sculpture. The little bird, a fish, an owl, a cat thing, and a blob of goo. If you consider the rock ability on its own useful, this will probably be useful to you, and a variety that you can use with the rock makes this power a lot more useful than just the rock alone. However, it is still pretty bad when it comes to fighting other than for quick, close distance kills. So, this power gets a 3 out of 5 stars. Cutter plus Fire. It can go in almost any direction except forward. If you hold it above your head, you can throw it. And in my opinion, it's probably the most useful Cutter power, even though it's not as cool as the Electric and Cutter ability. And this gets a 5 out of 5 stars because of its versatility in fighting. Cutter and Electric. A double-sided electric sword, kind of like the lightsabers in Star Wars. Very useful in fighting, just like the fire sword. However, it cannot be thrown, which is why I consider it less effective than the fire sword. However, it still gets a 5 out of 5 in terms of fighting. Needle. Messed up there. Creates a small barrier of needles for close distance. Surprisingly very effective. This gets a 4 out of 5 stars. Double Needle, basically the same thing, just a longer range. This is very useful for close combat. This gets a 5 out of 5 stars. Very useful for close combat, like I said before. Needle plus Bomb turns you into a Gordo. Pretty useful, good for an invincibility item, but in terms of what you can really do with it, it's not quite as perfect as the Double Needle ability, I'd say. Gets a 4 out of 5 stars. Needle plus Fire. Flaming bows and arrows. Pretty useful for long distance, but it can only go one direction, and how far it goes depends on, or how high it goes on top of that, depends on how long you hold down the B button, or whatever button it is to use the power. I'm using the GameCube controller. Because of its lack of versatility in fighting, it gets a 3 out of 5. Needle plus Electric shoots a lightning bolt upwards. Pretty useful if you're fighting upwards, and it's got a pretty decent invincibility feature. However, because of its lack of direction, it gets a 4 out of 5. Needle plus Ice makes a giant icicle type thing. Stretches out very far, which can be useful. However, it doesn't give you any mobility. This gets a 4 out of 5 stars. Needle and Rock creates a drill that permanently drags you. Well, not permanently, but as long as you hold down the button that is to use the power. After releasing the button, shoots through. It can also go through walls. This is a very effective long-distance fighting weapon and mobility weapon if you're lazy to hold the left or right on the control stick. It gets a 5 out of 5 stars. Bomb. Throws a bomb depending on the height and did this. Throws a bomb a certain height or distance depending on how long you throw it, or how long you hold the button to throw it. Pretty useful in fighting because it affects a wide area, however, it is not that great of an area. Gets a 4 out of 5 stars. Double bomb, shoots 3 rockets at enemies, automatically homes in on them. Very useful all the time. Gets a 5 out of 5 stars. Walking snowman bomb, ice and bomb. Basically, you cannot control when it detonates. You can, however, walk into an enemy taking damage, detonating it, or you can jump upwards, which is a lot more useful. However, it just makes the bomb ability worse. It gets a 3 out of 5 stars. Rock and bomb, throws a stick of dynamite, hold down to protect yourself. It affects a very large area, however, it damages Kirby and you have no control over when it detonates unless you directly throw it onto an enemy. Very dangerous, very risky. Gets a 3 out of 5 stars. Bomb plus fire creates fireworks. Very useful, and it creates a temporary moment of invincibility. Very useful when fighting, regardless of if it's long distance or close range. Gets a 5 out of 5 stars. Bomb plus electric creates a temporary walking light bulb. Also makes Kirby slightly invincible, and you can control when it detonates pretty much. However, you cannot get hit while using it. This gets a 4 out of 5 stars. Single ice. This makes Kirby blow some ice type things around him. However, it makes you move slow, and it doesn't cover a large distance. Can be useful in tight situations, however, not that useful. This gets a 3 out of 5 stars. Double ice creates an unchangeable in direction moving snowball. Temporarily sucks up all enemies until you decide to let it go. Not that much greater than the rock ability, but it still gets a 4 out of 5 stars. Fire and ice. It basically turns Kirby into an ice cube and then melts him. Very useless when fighting, pretty much. Gets a 1 out of 5 stars. Ice plus rock. There's not much to say about this. It's one of the spinning things that you'd see at the Winter Olympic Games. Not very useful at all, though it can give you a speed boost depending on where you are. All in all, not that useful when fighting. 3 out of 5 stars. Ice and electric turns Kirby into a fridge, which expels items that can heal you. Very, very useful. This gets a 5 out of 5 stars. Single rock. This temporarily makes Kirby into a golem type thing. Makes him walk very slow, so the most useful time is when you're rolling, and the area it creates when you expel Kirby from it. Not entirely as useful as the double rock, but it still gets a 3 out of 5 stars. Double rock turns Kirby into a giant golem. He walks a bit faster, but not entirely that much faster. Like I said before, the only useful times is when he's rolling, and when you expel him from it, gets a 4 out of 5 stars. Rock and electricity basically makes a boulder swing around Kirby. Very limited, but it is pretty useful sometimes. Gets a 3 out of 5 stars. Rock plus fire creates a rock gun. Pretty useful sometimes, but honestly it's not that useful. Because of its lack of ability, it gets a 3 out of 5 stars. Single fire turns Kirby into a comet. Temporarily makes him invincible. Pretty useful, gets a 4 out of 5 stars. Double fire turns Kirby into a phoenix, really large flame type thing. Very, very useful, especially when traveling. Gets a 5 out of 5 stars. Electric plus fire makes Kirby rub some kind of metal sheet on his head and catch on fire. Very hilarious to watch, however, when fighting, it's not that useful. 3 out of 5 stars. Electric only creates a small barrier around Kirby, somewhat lengthened sometimes. Pretty good invincibility power, however, it's not that great. Gets a 3 out of 5 stars. Last but finally not least, double electric. This creates a small barrier if you're moving while you use it, or if you're holding still, it creates a large barrier, which then you can start moving. Very, very useful. It jumps from a 3-star from single to a 5-star with double. Well, that's all the powers there are in Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards. Hopefully this entertained you and shows you which ones are more useful than others. Hope to see y'all again in the next Let's Play. See y'all next time.